Our main speaker today is well known to the Oasis community, David Oliverio. David was a Pentecostal preacher from 1976 until 1989, when he lost his faith in about 1990 and began a journey that led him to become a secular humanist activist. His passion is promoting and advancing humanism as an alternative to theistic religion. Through his YouTube show, The Preaching Humanist, public speaking, and Saturday sign-holding activism. So please welcome to the screen, David Oliverio.
Good morning, Oasis in Houston. I'm still trying to get used to this whole Zoom format, just like you all are. Just not the same as being there with you folks in person. But you know what? Thanks to science and technology, we have the ability to still stay in touch. So the last time Christine and I were there with you folks in Houston was back in January. We had a great time. And thank you for asking me back to speak on Zoom. So most of you know what I do. Those of you on YouTube, Facebook, and live here, some of you may not know. So basically, as you can tell by my actions and my body language, yes, I used to be a Pentecostal Christian evangelist and preacher from 1976 up to 1989. My dad was a Pentecostal preacher. My brother and I were raised in the ways of preaching. We nurtured nature, the whole thing, right? So first of all, let me tell you what I do. I'll give you a quick bio. So on Saturday mornings, I take my signs, and you can see my many posts on the Preaching Humanist Facebook page. And I go out to public places with my favorite sign. There's one right here. Also, like this one. Now this reminds us all what an important year in 2020, this November, right? Vote. And another one of my favorites, of course, promoting science and reason. And this one gets a lot of attention too, obviously. Now you notice the little yellow dot, that's from the eggs that evangelical Christians throw at me. Just kidding. Actually, they don't. Also, I'm really proud of my new cards. I have these little cards that I pass out on Saturday mornings looking for people that are interested in finding something that replaces theistic religion and God belief. Folks, out there in the fields, there's a lot of people out there. The harvest is plentiful, the laborers are few. Remember that one? And they're looking for communities. So I have this one, Austin Secular Communities, with all 5 of the communities with a website. On the back, the national secular groups, American Humanist, American Atheist, Secular Coalition for America, of America, Center for Inquiry. And look at the bottom, Houston's own Foundation Beyond Belief. It's a good one. So I'm finding people that have never heard of these groups, that just left belief in God and they miss the communities. And that's my job, to get out there and promote this stuff. And then this one is one of my new ones. What is humanism? Several different definitions for people to do some research and study, and there it is. What is humanism? And then, of course, my little card, David Oliverio, The Preaching Humanist, my YouTube show, and Secular Humanism. So the topic today is above and beyond adolescent atheism. What I mean by adolescent is, I think we all know what that simply means. It's that period following puberty when a young person develops from a child into an adult. Now, my experience, as I make this relevant to unbelief, agnosticism, atheism, secular humanism, is, and many of the groups that I've been speaking to around the country, Zoom, and pre-COVID here in Texas, traveling, I've noticed something, and it concerns me somewhat, that there is a percentage of people that identify as atheists that tend to be what I call adolescent atheists. And I'm going to go over the 5 or 6 characteristics of an adolescent atheist. And if you're ready, there's a way to be healed up and to grow and mature into something more productive, which I call secular humanism. So let's go over the 5 characteristics. Number 1, you're hurt. I was hurt. I let go of God belief in '89. I lost my friends, some of my family, my social network. I turned the church over, the second church I started, over to my two assistants. I remember that painful time. And some of you have left, especially evangelical Christianity. And some of you are hurt. You've lost your friends and or your family. Now, I can tell you about losing a family. My father, a retired Pentecostal pastor, many of you have heard my episodes on this on my Preaching Humanist show, disowned me in June of 2018. His words, "You're dead to me. You're no longer my son. I hate everything you do and everything you stand for." And it's been over 2 years ago. So there is a price and a cost of going out and exercising free speech. Now, pre-COVID, out on Lady Bird Lake Trail with my signs and my cards, I had a 35-year-old African-American man, a black man, approach me. He looked very sad, depressed. And he walked up to me. He was almost in tears. He told me his story. He left the Jehovah's Witness church. His wife of 10 years left him, took the 8-year-old daughter and 6-year-old son. He told me his story, that he has not been able to see his children, his parents, his whole family network and church family for over a year. He was devastated. Now he's hurt. Now he came looking for a group of loving people to get healed up. I gave him a card and I told him about the different communities. He was very happy about that. There's a lot of hurt people out there that have been affected in a negative way from especially evangelical Christianity. Because as you know, I make lots of friends on the left of Christianity, the progressive Christian allies that we have on the left. Number 2 characteristic of adolescent atheism. Some of you may feel like you're damaged goods. I had a friend about 2 years ago call me. I didn't know him that well until we got to know each other. He said, "David, I've seen your show. I just left belief in a God from Church of Christ or Baptist, I don't remember. And his family disowned him. He lost his friends and his family. You know the story. And he wanted to meet me for coffee because he said, "David, I want to go out with you and hold up signs and love on people." And that's what I do. I let the light of humanism shine. I normalize atheism. I find common ground and promote secular humanism and the groups. But he told me an interesting little statement. He said, "I don't think in my state now I can be productive because I am damaged goods." The good news is I got him connected to a couple of the secular humanist groups here in Austin. And after 2 years, I can say he's found a family of like-minded, caring individuals, and he is now more of a productive individual for the secular movement. Number 3, here's another characteristic that I have noticed, and especially I went through this because I was the king of this one, and many of these characteristics in the past. Victimology. You may feel like a victim. Why did my parents raise me in this? Why did I have to be taught this lie? Because it's hard to leave. I feel like I was victimized. I did. Now let me tell you some interesting things. Let's discuss childhood indoctrination. And I can quote from the Bible. Will, you were talking about knowing the Bible verses earlier. Proverbs 22, train up a child in the way he or she should go, right? That's what the Bible says. And when they are old, they will not depart from it. Well, we know that's erroneous. Many of us have departed from it. Now, there's a reason why most Christian parents have raised you in the faith. And some of you may feel victimized. But I'm going to tell you something. Many Christian parents And this is applicable or relevant to all God beliefs. Let's talk Christianity because we're in America. Parents in Christian churches, most of them, raise their kids in the ways of faith, in biblical values. Why? Because they're bad people? Because they want you to be a victim? Because they want to hurt you? No. They raise their children in the ways of faith because they actually think it will benefit you. I know parents that are wonderful people that are Christian. I have clients that way in my business of personal training. They actually think this will benefit their children, but they're good people. Now, I was raised. I don't have time to go over my whole deconversion story. I'm keeping this no more than 25 or 30 minutes. I'm watching my clock over there. Use my internal clock. The first time anyone ever asked me to speak on my deconversion story, because it's a whopper of a story, I'm just going to touch on a tiny bit. In 1957, way back in the day, if you do your math right, I'm 63. I guess I would qualify as a geezer, the baby boomers, right? I was raised in an anti-intellectual, anti-reason, anti-science, anti-secularism, anti-human intelligent bubble of Pentecostal Christianity. We took the whole Bible literally, everything. Speaking in tongues, laying hands on the sick, they shall recover. Hours a day in prayer, preaching of Jesus. I used to go out and teach people how to go door to door witnessing, winning people to Jesus. I did all that. Started 2 churches, traveled, did all that to churches. Now, my upbringing was in that bubble until I was the age of 32 in 1989. I couldn't believe it anymore. I don't have time for all the details. Maybe I can come back and give you that sometime if you like. But I'm kind of progressive. I don't look back much. I like to look ahead and advance and move ahead, make the world better through humanist principles. Now, I did feel like a victim in 89 and 90. I went through a hard time. I lost everything, started all over. I felt like a blank slate. I'd never read anything outside of Christianity. It was all the straight Bible and Bible concordance and Jesus. That's it. I soon discovered things called science, reason, philosophy, and the rest is history. I'm still like a little kid in a candy store with books. Ask my wife, Christine. Book after book and book. I'm learning from you smart people. I learn, I read, I go to libraries. But I did feel like a victim. I was not encouraged to go to college or university. I didn't. I had to learn on my own. I recreated my life. How do I live in a God-free world? I no longer can go back to that. I can't believe that anymore. What's over here? How do I make sense? How do I find morals, ethics, happiness, meaning, joy, compassion, empathy, love for others without that? I did. But it was hard. I didn't have a community. I didn't even have a computer in 1990. It was me alone with my books and my thoughts. Hard time. But I made it and I held on. But I did feel like a victim. But I know now, that my parents didn't do it to hurt me. They just thought that was the right thing to do. So we can get healed up from that victimology, that attitude, which some people have. Number 4 characteristic, anger. I noticed this. One of the Zoom talks last month at one of the humanist groups, somewhere in the country, there's always a group of people during the Q&A that seem very angry. They said, David, in your past, it seems you would agree with me that most preachers are out for money. And I said, I'm sorry, this is not the answer you want to hear, but to be honest with you, most of my buddies who are young preachers and our fathers who were pastors, Most of us were good guys. We just didn't know that you can be good without that. I'm talking about the unhealthy anger, where you take it out on other people rather than loving people. Now, there is a healthy anger. I get angry when I read defund Planned Parenthood's bumper stickers. I get angry when Betsy DeVos puts her grubby, greedy hands in public school money and tries to put it in parochial schools. I get mad when the Christian nationalism movement, Christian right, Project Blitz, and all that tries to infiltrate their belief system and everybody else, pass laws that we all have to believe a certain way. That angers me. But I'm talking about that anger that you live with, you breathe with, you sleep with, every day with other people. You may feel cheated. You may feel like I've been lied to. I felt like that years ago. It took me a while to get out of that stage. You may feel like you lost the prime of your life. Boy, did I think that. When I quit believing, when I was 32 years old in 33 years old in 1990, I felt like I lost the prime of my life, and I really did. Physically, emotionally, mentally, energy levels, those things called hormones that the endocrine glands, organs, and cells produce. Those feel-good hormones are at top production at that age. Here I am, 63 years old. Wish I had that same energy. I have to cheat now with a cup of coffee, like I did just a few minutes ago. But I did feel like I lost the prime of my life at that time when I was in that adolescent stage for an illusion. But I went on and I grew and I got healed up, attempting to be more productive and loving people. Number 5, characteristic of someone who's in that stage of adolescence in atheism. You can have an overreactive behavior. Actions based on your feelings and emotions, the old amygdala in the brain, right? Rather than logic, reason, slowing things down. That lack of self-control. Now, when I was a younger atheist activist, I'll admit, I made a lot of mistakes. I'm still growing and learning and evolving. I make mistakes every weekend. I made a couple yesterday. Always learning and growing. But back then, before I got healed up, I would go out. I know this is embarrassing, but it's the fact. I would go out looking for a fight. Not physically, I'm kind of a softie. Not a fighter, I'm a lover. But I would go out looking for a fight with believers. I wanted to lash back. I wanted to tell them, this is stupid. How can you believe in this? Oh, I outgrew it. That's not a good place to be. Number 6, I want to spend a little more time on this. The last one, then I get to the good stuff, the remedy. And I promise no altar call like I did 30 to 40 years ago. Number 6, you may have a great antipathy or dislike of everything. Now, hear me out on this, because you folks at Houston Oasis, my take, are one of the quintessential secular humanist groups around. I brag about y'all. Also, my friends up in Dallas, Fellowship of Free Thought. Hi, Al, Lisa Perry. My buddy Jason Fry, who I spoke with too, Zoom. He lives in Austin now, the president of the Association of Humanists of San Diego, California. These groups, you folks in Houston, Dallas group, the San Diego group, other groups around the country popping up. Some people in their adolescent stage of atheism don't like this. Well, I don't want to go to Houston Oasis. It's too churchy. Because I have this dislike of everything religious or, hear me out on this one, church-like. Now, if you're in that stage of adolescence in your atheism and you're still hurt, I get it. I'm not judging. I was the king of adolescent atheists years ago. But you're not going to like that statement when I say we have communities that are analogous, similar to church. They're kind of churchy. I remember a guy pre-COVID from one of the groups, and I saw him at Starbucks, and he said, "Hey, David." I said, "Hey, how you doing?" He goes, "You still preaching at those old atheist churches?" Kind of ridiculous to me. I said, "Okay, have a happy day." I said, "Well, actually, yeah, these are people that just miss the good part of church, right? Without this or the Bible or the tenets of faith." Now, that's a new phrase that I use when I go out and pass out cards. People approach me and say, "What are you doing out here?" And I just tell them, "I'm out here to promote these groups for those who were once believers in a God, who are now either agnostic or atheists or non-believers, humanists, whatever you identify as, in a secular hub. And they miss," I like this. This is one of my original ones. "They miss the good part of church." What's that? And I explained to them. Community, friends, organized philanthropy, potlucks, children's groups, outings, studies, science, philosophy, whatever. Just being with people. Now, back when I was able to set up tables at different market days up in Georgetown for the atheist community of Austin and other groups, I never forget this. I got to end here quickly. I had a couple approach me, and I've got hundreds of these stories. I can only pick one. They were probably in their 50s, a married couple. They approached the booth like many people do, and I could just fire you guys up to do it because you will be blown away how many people are out there, just out there. They've fallen from the Christian tree, and they don't know that there are communities that can remind them of their church. So this couple approached me, and they said, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. An atheist group, a humanist group up here in Georgetown, Texas, suburbia Austin, North Austin. I didn't know you were here. I didn't know we had groups." They were so happy. He was happy. She was a little different story. He looked like he was healed up because he was former Baptist. She was former Church of Christ. You know what I'm talking about, like my Pentecostal background. Now, when they were leaving, if anybody knows me, some of you have been out with me doing this stuff, and I kid around. I'm a silly old guy. I like to make people laugh. I like to make people happy, right? I even do it for my clients. And when they were leaving, I said to him, I said, "Y'all have a blessed day." He laughed, which most people do. It's just a little joke. And he looked at me and goes, "Yeah, I'm praying for you." I'm just kidding around. Because we get that from evangelicals all the time. And I noticed she didn't like it. She had this angry look on her face. And she looked at me and she went, "Oh, I don't want to hear that. That brings back bad memories. I don't want anything to do with church, anything that reminds me of church, anything that reminds me of my past." He grabbed her arm and said, "Honey, he was just kidding. Lighten up, honey. He's just kidding." And I went, "Thank you, sir." She didn't look happy. There are people out there at that state. I was like that too. I had great sympathy for those that have been hurt. One more thing, we get to the remedy. There's an old phrase that we baby boomers used to say. I don't know if you youngsters nowadays, you millennials, say it, but we used to say, you don't take the baby and throw it out with the bathwater. You take that sweet little baby, the good stuff. You love the baby, like my third grandchild, August. I have a 9-year-old grandson, 7-year-old granddaughter, and 1.5-year-old grandson named August. Cutest little thing in the world, up in North Dallas. My daughter's son and her husband. And you hold that baby. You recognize there's some good stuff. You throw the dirty bathwater out. We understand there are thorns and thistles in the Bible. There's some stuff that's outdated. We know that. in the Quran, all the other beliefs. And our progressive liberal Christian friends know that. They agree. But you keep the good stuff. You love that baby. And what is that? All the stuff that you do at Houston Oasis, which some people would say is too churchy. When you understand that all humans are the same. I'm out of my atheist confirmation bias bubble, my echo chamber, if you will, all the time. Why? My job. I go into people's homes, Christian and atheist, Hindus, Muslims, New Age spiritualists, everybody. You know what? Guess what? We're all the same. We all just want love, happiness, meaning in life. We're not that different. That's my job, to show people that. Now, remedy. And I promise you, no altar call like years ago. In fact, I got a piano right around here. You might see it to my right. I used to be a pianist. I still am. I used to write music. I still do. I'm just not a singer. I'm a piano player and songwriter. But I remember I would lead people from the piano in the Pentecostal church after I preached for altar calls. So no altar call. Don't worry about that. Now, if you are ready, if you identify as one of those people that have recently let go of belief in the supernatural, and you've been hurt, I get it. You lost some of your friends and family, I get it. I understand. I've been there. If you feel like a victim, if you're angry, if you overreact, and you have a great dislike of anything that reminds you of church, if you're ready to move ahead and advance above that, there's a way to get healed up. And I'm going to tell you right now. There are a couple ways. But if you're not, that's okay. This is non-coercive. There's no ultimatum. There's no, if you don't do it, you're going to be cast into the lake of fire. None of that. But if you're ready, number one, you do it for yourself. Dawkins was right, folks. There's a thing called selfish genes. We have selfish genes and selfless genes. Do it for yourself, number one. Why? You want to be a happy person. You want to be able to love yourself. Because we know that when you get healed up, you can love yourself again. You can love other people. And then number two, you do it for others. Like many of my friends I've met who were in that stage. They got healed up in groups and they've gone on. They're happier. But we know we need each other. I think of Barbra Streisand's song, you fellow baby boomers, remember, I'm not a singer, but I'm going to try. People who need people are the, too high for me, happiest people in the world. I told you I wasn't a singer. We need each other. Last I checked, human beings, Homo sapiens, are still a social animal. We need each other. How do you do this? Number one, you've already got it there in Houston. Find a community of like-minded, caring, compassionate people. I know a lot of you folks there. Alexis, Will, many of the others. There's a good group of people, core people there. And there are people out there that are hurting. And they long for what they used to have in church. But you've got something to provide them. Find a group of loving people. There's nothing like a hug. There's nothing like a tap on the shoulder. There's nothing like someone listening to you as you discuss this, your hurts, your wounds of the past. Something else you can do, get counseling, good secular counseling. It works. I wish I had Dr. Darrell Ray's cards. I need to get some. Hello, Dr. Darrell Ray. I respect you and I wish I could meet you and have you on my show. I love what you do. Recovery from religion, right? They have toll-free number. You can call. They have counselors. I think it's 24/7. Not sure. I understand. Now, I close with this. If you make that choice to mature out of that angry stage of adolescent atheism, and you want to mature into this thing called secular humanism, now you're ready to be productive. Now, since you've been healed up, you love yourself again. That's a good feeling. It's a happy feeling to love yourself. Now you can go out and love who? Others. Oh, David, that sounds Christian. It's human. Love is not a religious, biblical, godly virtue. It is a human virtue, right? No God, no Bible, no Jesus. Religion is needed to know, love, or define it. We know this. Now you can go out and love people, transform lives of hurting people out there with love and compassion. Now you're ready to change the world change the world for the good, through humanist principles, to make a better world. I'm not preaching utopia here, but a better world. Through secular humanism. Not a perfect world. Secular humanism is not perfect, but I think it's a better philosophy. It's the best thing we got. And it continues to grow. We make mistakes, we learn, we evolve. And maybe 20 and 30 years from now, there'll be something better. But right now, it's good. And as I say in all my talks, I end with the same thing. My friends, remember to let the light, let the compassion, and let the love of secular humanism shine. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I did it within 30 minutes, Alexis.
We're good.
It's a miracle. I think I did.
You did it within a good time. I wasn't watching the clock, so.
Okay.
Time is not my strong point, as many people in Oasis can tell you. All right, thank you so much. Before we jump into Q&A, we are going to break out into discussion groups, so you can hit join if you like, or not now if you want to step away, get some coffee, just take a breather, and you can always join later or just jump back in about 10 minutes. This is also a great time if you're watching us on Facebook or YouTube. You can put your questions into the chat, and we can get them over to David during the Q&A. So, in just a minute, Abhishek is going to send you the join for your breakout room, and we'll be back in about 10 minutes.
Hey, David. Welcome back, everyone. And Alexis just lost some internet, and I guess we can begin with the Q&A here. So I guess one question, the first question here is, have you heard of the term Christian atheism, and what do you think of it? Oh, you're muted, David.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I think I heard that correctly. Christian atheism?
Yes. Apparently some Christians have defined Christian atheism as being a cultural Christian following the ethics of what's laid down in the New Testament Gospels while rejecting the supernatural claims of Christianity. That's there's a Wikipedia link there to that article.
Yeah. Well, again, we have all the hermeneutics, the way you interpret these words and definitions. Sure, I mean, secular humanism is very similar to Christianity in some ways. I mean, some of the stuff that Jesus said, the Good Samaritan policy, when you're hungry, I fed you. When you were naked, I clothed you. When you were out, I took you in. All these good scriptures that we agree with is just simply humanism. I mean, Confucius, Aristotle, Epicurus, the Stoics, hundreds of years prior to the Bible all discuss the same thing, right? This is just pure humanism. So to say this is Christian is just, to me, just already human in us. So we will just share these values with many different belief systems of just being good. I've never really heard that term. I mean, I've been called a Christian atheist by a agnostic guy. He said, I act like a Christian. I said, well, you know, being a person who values morals and ethics, no matter if you're a Christian or humanist or atheist, doesn't matter. It's just being good is being good, you know.
Okay. Richard, do you want to, are you here? Let's see. Do you have a question?
David, thank you for coming again to Oasis. I think what you do is remarkable, and I commit to joining you one of your Saturdays up there. I wanted to ask what COVID has done to the approach of what you do on Saturdays.
Yeah, good question. Thank you. I stopped going out, obviously, mid-March for about 2 months, and keeping track of how many cases we have in Travis County, for you, Harris County. And I decided to go back out and try. It was scary that first time. That was back maybe May-ish or June. Now, it was outside, so I thought, I'm going to get crucified by my fellow secular people, right, for being out there too early. Honestly, I went out at Lady Bird Lake Trail, and I had my mask on. I kept away from people. Honestly, it's not that different. And I brought my hand lotion, sanitizer. And some people didn't wear their masks, some do. Yesterday morning, few people were wearing. Phoenix was with me yesterday. First time someone's helped me since I've been out there since COVID. And thanks for showing up, Phoenix. So it hasn't really affected it that much. People still approach me. Sometimes I have to stay back 6 feet, but for the most part, it hasn't changed that much. I normally would rotate locations and go to the state capitol, downtown Austin, of course, San Antonio, Alamo, which is the king, and up in Georgetown. I don't go to those places. I'm waiting for COVID to dissipate. But to answer your question, it hasn't affected it that much, no.
Okay. So does anyone else have a question? Can you raise your hand? Okay, let's go with Robert first. Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, am I unmuted? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I have an observation to offer and solicit your comment. One of the things that I found is that any religious ceremony plugs into a dimension of ourself in a sort of a magical way. One way to look at religious ceremonies is that human beings are trying to deal with the mystery of life. We are thrown into this very mysterious thing. And it doesn't matter what religion it is, Hinduism, Zoroastrianism, Kaudai, whatever, the ritual, the music, the chanting is magical and plugs into us in some way. And I think it's useful for people because sometimes they will stay in a religion because they feel this magical mystery thing. It doesn't matter which religion it is, whether you're chanting it in Hebrew or Hindi or some other language, and it grabs us. And I think we should acknowledge the power of that kind of ritual, and it, because it does keep people into irrational systems. Can you comment on that, please?
Well, that's a good point. Thank you. Yes, I mean, religion is defined in many different ways. Our friends at the Ethical Culture, they call it the Religion of Humanism, right? It's a lot of cultural things, a lot of ceremonies, yet they identify primarily as unbelievers. So there's that aspect of it. There's our friends at the Judaistic Humanism movement from New York City. They keep the traditions, the ceremonies of the Jewish faith, and they're mainly agnostic or atheist. So I agree. I think that if that's what you need, it makes you happy. There's nothing really, there's no deity they're worshiping. It is this mystery, this thing, that component that all humans have. We like this. And I see this almost similar to evolution. Very slow change from this to just pure humanism. And I know a lot of people that have a hard time letting go. I know a lot of cultural Hindus, I've had them as clients, that don't believe in Shiva, Vishnu, or Ganesh anymore. And they're identified as atheists or agnostics, but they still have the religious symbols, the ceremonies for the other deities of Hinduism. So yeah, I mean, there's an amalgamation of all this in our secular movement. Personally, I don't have a problem with it. I think it promotes good, and it's serving what a lot of people miss about church. So yeah.
Oh, yes, go ahead. Oh, you need to unmute yourself. Oh.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello. Yeah, I'd like to speak to the speaker. I haven't got the right screen on here.
No, go ahead.
Okay, anyway, I'm Jeffrey Leopard, and I also am a composer, and I have written songs about a song called Spiritual Abuse, for example, and that I've done at Oasis, and I also did, not too long ago, a parody of Faith of Our Fathers as the fears of our fathers, that our past are cleft for us and left for us as our fearful inheritance. And I was wondering if you did any tunes like that, because you know, putting these ideas into rhythm and music, you know, can be so powerful.
Yeah.
I can't see you. I'm on the wrong screen, but oh, here you are. Okay. Hi.
Hello. Okay. Yeah, good point and good question. As far as a composer, I don't read music. I don't know music as far as theory. I just started playing when I was like 8 or 9 years old in church, Pentecostal church. So I played in bands, at Christian bands. And of course, I would take singers with me when I would travel and preach at churches. And in the 2 churches I started in Waco, Texas, back in the 80s, where there are more Christians than people, Waco, Texas. But yeah. And anyway, so yeah, I still play, I still write music. It's all here. I've got 25 songs. I just need to finish up, get my lazy butt going to finish up with the lyrics. But I just need a singer or a couple, 2 or 3 people to harmonize with an acoustic guitar, be on the piano. But yeah, most of the songs I write are from experiences, probably like yourself. A lot of them are on the journey from Christianity to secular humanism. Others are just about relationships and love, right? I wrote a song about the song Disowned, the experience about my father disowning me. It's kind of painful, but it's got a very good upbeat ending. Wrote one about my lovely wife, 2 songs about her, one about my daughter, and other relationship type songs. But I think songs and music can be very effective. I've got some of secular humanism. Very important. It's a part of the full human experience that we promote in secular humanism. Not just science, not just reason, not just logic, which is all very important, but also the humanities, right? Music, poetry, literature, art, classical music, rock and roll, whatever you like. It's the full human experience. So music and songs and lyrics are so important. It's kind of innate in us as humans, just like our ancestors, the hunter-gatherers. I can just see them around the fire chanting, dancing, singing, and so forth. So yeah, it's an important part of life. No doubt.
All right, we have time for one last question. Someone asks on Facebook, when I have an unemotional discussion with religious people, it seems to them that many embrace the humanistic parts of the religion but question the literal Bible parts.
Yeah.
It seems that many, not all, are moving towards basing their lives on evidence and reason instead of the dogma and supernatural. Does that confirm with some of your observations?
I got to shout big old capital amen on that. I mean, it makes me so happy on Saturday mornings when I have people approach me that may say, look, I still believe in God, but I'm on a journey and I'm very progressive liberal. I had some people approach me yesterday. They said, hey, I'm a Christian, you're an atheist. But guess what? I want all of us to have freedom, all have equality, all to be able to believe what you want to, but just love each other, put aside our differences. I know that sounds hard, but people are growing and learning and evolving to the more progressive liberal Christianity, which I like because they're very humanistic. They vote more like us. They believe in freedom and equality. So I see it getting better. But the evangelicals, the Christian nationalist movement, they're still out there. But I am very optimistic. My experience every Saturday, I've been doing this for years. I used to go into churches and talk to people with this. I'm seeing that more and more people are dropping from that tree. We need to go out there and gather them in. And some of them may never leave God believe. But the important thing is they're very progressive, very liberal. They will agree with us probably on 98, 99% of everything, which makes me happy. So yes, I can definitely see that change.
All right, well, thank you so much.